Hi folks, G3 here. Welcome to another instalment of my journey to go green. Today's episode is another one of my gardening updates, just showing you what I've been doing in the garden. So it might give you a little bit of inspiration, or you might be able to feed back to me and let me know if there's anything you think I should be doing. And recently I paid another trip to Edible Culture. You will have seen in videos before, which I'll include links up above. I've used their Bag for Life scheme to get compost. So it comes without a plastic bag. You just take the bag and get it refilled. It's a great way of getting peat-free compost. I also use it to get seaweed-based plant feed. Take it a little glass bottle that can be refilled, so I don't have to pay for the plastic packaging each time. It's just take that back and get it refilled. So I had another one of the trips there. I picked up some chives because ours didn't last the winter. Unfortunately, they've been with us for a number of years, but they died off over winter, unfortunately. So I've got some replacements. And what this is a cardboard package that it comes in. So when you choose the plants at Edible Culture, they're in plastic pots, but they go and transfer them into these posi pots. And it's a scheme that they run for different sort of garden centres. They supply them with these cardboard pots that then are used for people to transport those home. Really good scheme. And I also bought a new succulent for Mrs. G3. She likes her succulents. It's a little bit untidy because I unfortunately tipped it over on the journey on the way back, so it needs a little bit of tidying up, but it's got very furry, hairy leaves. So Mrs. G3 is going to transfer this to another position at a later stage, but that is also in one of those posi pots. I've got some cucumbers. Now, I got these from a garden centre yesterday. They've come in plastic pots. Unfortunately, they don't do that scheme, so wasn't able to transfer those. But I've got two of the Fem Spot cucumbers that I'm going to put into the greenhouse. And I have got 3 sunflowers that my neighbour has very kindly given us. She's been growing those from seed, was very proud with how they're growing, and they're doing really nicely. So I'm going to transfer those over into a larger pot to allow them to grow on. I also have here some grass that I've been growing from seed. I'm a member of the RHS, and as part of that I have the opportunity to purchase seed that they have collected from the various different RHS gardens. So I've got here Pennisetum villosum, so that's a particular grass, and this other one is Pennisetum alopecuarides. Pennisetum alopecuarides. So that's another grass, and I'm going to transfer those over into other pots. I have some courgettes that I've been growing, and I'm going to transfer those over into their final position. I think I'll put those into the garden. The sweet corn hasn't been particularly very successful, so I got a pack of sweet corn, was sowing those and grew them in these root trainers, but unfortunately it hasn't been very good. Only 3 have taken, so it's not been a very good season for me growing the sweet corn from seed. They need to be grown in a close group so that the pollination happens via wind transfer. They need to be sort of in a group near each other. So just having 3 isn't going to be particularly effective, so I need to try and source some others. First things first, I'm going to repot these sunflowers. Get some of this Melcourt compost. Whilst this isn't certified as organic, it's as good as organic. They do a certified version as well, but it was a little bit dearer, but because this is as good as organic, so I'm quite happy using this one. Now with these things always, you want to go up a little bit in size so that you've got a bit of room for the roots to grow, but not too much, because otherwise they can get a little bit swamped in there. As with most people, I have got quite a collection of pots collected over the years. This one seems appropriate. What we got here is, you can see there's a step up in size, a little bit taller, definitely wider, so this is a suitable step up in size. Now one thing you can do if you've got a big enough pot is you can put the one inside and feed the soil around the outside between the gaps, so that you can start sort of getting a bit of an area in there, so that it's easy enough to then, if it's firm enough, it will stay in place when you take the pot out. You can turn this over and just plop it in that gap. It's not really going to work for me with this one because it's not a huge step up in size. There's only a tiny gap, so I'm going to just be very gentle with this. Pop a little bit of the soil in the bottom, and I'm trying to get a height in the pot so that there's maybe perhaps a centimetre at the top between the soil level and the top of the pot, so there's a bit of area that the water can go in when it's top watered, but preferably I'm going to bottom water these, so I'll put it in a water bath and let it soak up from underneath when I do get to water them. The way that I do it is I support the plant from the side with a finger either side of the plant, very gently, and I'm going to tip that upside down, squeeze the side of the pot gently around the outside, a little tap, and it's come out. We see it's got some really nice roots there. It's been growing nicely. That's really good. So I'm just going to pop that in the pot and then pop some more of this compost around the outside, gently pushing down around the outside. I don't want to damage those lovely roots, and a little bit of gentle firming down on the top to say get it to that about the centimetre height. So there we go. That's what I'm aiming for with this one. So it's about a centimetre below, and it's got that nice extra space around it now. And I'll water that in so that the it's not that the plant necessarily needs water. It's a case of giving it a water so that the soil settles around the roots and you get good contact with the roots and get the moisture going on the roots as well to help with the water uptake. So that's the main reason that I will do that. So I'm going to put these in a water bath outside. Now what we've got is the tray of grasses. I don't want particularly small pots because I don't want them drying out. I think these pots are going to be okay in size. I'll start using those. What I do have are a couple of Bergen and Ball little trowels that I'm going to use to get these out of the pots. What I'm going to do is use this to tease under the roots to lift them out so that I'm not going to be damaging the roots. I just want to get a reasonable amount of soil out with them and just lift them up gently. Go underneath, lift that up. So there we go. You can just see the roots poking through, but we've got our lovely little grass there. So I'm going to need to pop that on. There we go. So that's the final one of those, the Pennisetum villosum. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up labels for all of these 4 pots, because from experience what I found out is that when I move pots around I can easily lose track as to which is which. I potted up those grasses. I had 10 of those that I've potted up and now in a water bath. Next up I've got the digitalis that I've sown from seed here. Now some of these are a little worse for wear, unfortunately, because they haven't been in huge plugs and we've had a little bit of warm weather, so they've gone unnoticed, a lot of these. So I need to transfer them over so that they're in bigger pots and they can get the water that they need. So I'm going to do the digitalis now. Now these are going to be interesting to try and transplant because there's various different sizes, and I think probably what I might have to do is transfer one plug into a pot so that they can sort of develop on there, and I might have to separate them out again further because I don't really want to damage them if I can help it, but they do need to go into something a little bit deeper. Now these plug trays that I've got, I have featured them before on the channel, and they've got holes underneath that I'm going to be able to push out and push the whole plug up, so it makes it a lot easier. It makes it easier when you're doing a soak to water them, but equally it makes them easy to push out when you're doing this. What I tend to do is get my dibber and push that up underneath to push it out, or use my finger to push up as well. I've got a range of different digitalis here. Again, they're from the RHS, from their members seed scheme, so a few different colours. I wanted a bit of variety, and unfortunately I am going to have to throw some of these that have wilted. They're not going to survive, so I will have to be ruthless with those. So I've got a bucket ready that I'm going to put those in. Experience has taught me that it's not worth trying with those because I've got other spares and these just won't survive. So because I'm throwing these ones, I'm just going to push up underneath to pull the plug out. And there, the plug's out, and I will dispose of that one. They will go on the compost heap and prove beneficial there. But the ones that are in decent foliage and they're still surviving, I will be potting those. So let's try. This is a bit of a mixture, this one. So it's got some plants that are okay, some that aren't. I'll pop the plug in there and put a bit of soil around the outside. I say soil, I should say compost, sorry. This Melcourt compost. There we go. And I'll try and get them a bit below the level of the pot so that there's a ability to water from above potentially, but these are going to be in a tray to soak initially. There we go. So some of that has survived okay, Some of it's a little bit worse for wear, but hopefully with a bit of a soak that will be okay. These are Digitalis purpurea, the ones that I'm doing now, but like I say, I've got a range of them, and I will label the pots so I know what they are and don't forget them. Prior to repotting these, I have given them a soak in a water bath, so they have got that emergency water to try and perk them up. But like I say, I will water them again once they're all done, just to help them bed in with the soil, to make sure that the soil and water is touching the roots so that they can grow nicely in the future. The roots are pretty good in the plugs, they're working quite well. I've repotted all of the Digitalis that I was able to save. There's quite a few here, there's some that are in water bath at the moment soaking up, so they're all potted. Next up it's going to be these poppies, and it's the opium poppy that growing here. They're looking worse for wear because they've used all the nutrients up in the tray. I haven't had a chance to repot these as yet, and they're looking a little bit dry, so I have soaked them so they've had a bit of water to try and perk them up, and I'm now going to transplant these into larger pots in clumps. They will go out into the garden, but it's a little bit early for that because it's dry at the moment. It's not due to rain for at least another week here, and I'm concerned that if I go and plant them out, I'm going to have to be watering them to keep them in good condition. So I'd rather have them in the pots that I can look after for a couple of weeks, grow on so they're a bit stronger, and then put out in the garden. So that's why I'm going to be repotting these now. Now these are quite a mat of roots in here because I broadcast sowed on the top, and so they've sort of embedded in quite a bit. So I am going to try and tease them apart into clumps and pot those on. I shall plant them in this size pot and let them grow on, get a little bit more nutrients, get the roots growing a bit better, make sure they're strong enough to go out in the garden. And hopefully they're reasonably hardy. Seeing as you see poppies growing in some really tough conditions out in the wild, I'm hopeful that I haven't done too much damage by leaving these on their own for a while. I'm fairly confident that a good soak with the additional nutrients in this fresh compost, and they will perk up. There's a lot for me to be getting through here, so I'll get on with those and we'll come back in a moment. It's been a busy day so far. I've managed to get quite a few jobs done. The final task that I'm going to be doing is planting these cucumbers in the greenhouse. One of the things I have to help the cucumbers and tomatoes grow in the greenhouse are these trellises that are fixed into the top. And how they work is that I can release the drum and then pull down the supporting cable to the bottom, and then when I've had enough come out, I can let that go, and it's fixed and it will stay taut for the cucumber or tomato to grow up when it's sort of trained around here. So what I'm going to be doing is securing this underneath the cucumber so that it can grow up. Good to have a good kneeling pad to protect my knees. Right, so the position for these, if I get the cable coming down, I'll be able to see. And what I do, I have a little tent peg that I can put through the bottom. I've got a little loop of the cord there, and I will feed that through. There we go. And then I'll hook that down underneath where it goes, and I'll plant the cucumber around that. I'll just dig a little hole for that to go into. So I've got that string in position now. I brought some of the compost, the milk compost, to put around the hole just to give it a bit of nutrients. Let's tease that out. And that's going to be positioned right at the base of that cord. And I'm going to put a bit of the milk compost around the bottom. Give it a bit of nutrients. There we go. Bed that in. Put the soil around. So that's in position right by the cord, and it's going to be able to grow up it. This will stay nice and tight so that it will be able to grow up that. So I'm going to put the one in over here as well. Nice, so we've got both of the cucumbers planted in with the support strings there to help them up. The final thing that I need to do, I have the watering system that operates in the greenhouse. So these are already set up from last year, and I will position those so that tomorrow morning when the drip feed starts, then these will also be watered in. So there we go, we've got the drip feed in place for these. Well, there you go, folks. That's this week's gardening update. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, then please click the like button down below. Up next, I got this video that I think you might find useful. And if you haven't done so already, then why not subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you get notified when I load up a new video. Well, till next time, bye.